age gap seems smaller on the internet than in real life. So yeah, even if it was like, oh, I have this guardian, like, yeah, I'm a Zax.
Yeah, if you were thinking, hey, I want to get close to my kid, they have friends online, I could just slip in there. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's a bad move.
Grab some popcorn and stick around. We've got some garbage to talk about.
Hi, Rogue.
Hey, Zax.
Hi, Aaron.
Hey, everyone.
Today we are cashing in on our promise, and we're gonna compare the DCOM True Confessions to Sia's music.
It's definitely a very interesting journey.
I guess before we should talk some background info is that DCOMs used to be very different.
It used to be real.
Yeah, there's also just, a very different feel. There was a difference between a DCOM original movie and a Disney Channel show.
Yeah.
How to Build a Better Boy and Zapped all feel like pilots to a Disney Channel show. But you had, in the olden days, you had things like True Confessions, you had The Color of Friendship.
Also, that being said, some of the older Disney Channel shows like Boy Meets World and That's So Raven also did incorporate these heavier themes into them.
That's true. Yeah, they had very special episodes, quote unquote, kind of things where even, and I watched Girl Meets World, and they really didn't have...
They tried. I saw a few, and they tackled cultural appropriation and stuff like that, but it wasn't quite the same.
No, and it was very... I don't feel like there was a very nuanced take.
No.
And I feel like it's also unfortunate, because I love Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
So much. But Girl Meets World, I was actually excited at first for Girl Meets World, but they just spoon-fed the kids the answers a lot of the time, and I get that now Corey's their Mr. Feeney, but Mr. Feeney didn't spoon-feed you the answers like this.
Yeah.
And the cultural appropriation episode you're mentioning, Riley, it's such a weird journey, too. So she becomes queen of the nerds because she goes to this party where she happens to be the quote-unquote coolest person there because it's a, nerd party or whatever. So she becomes queen of the nerds and then starts dressing up like a Harajuku girl.
Yeah.
And it's why? They don't dress like that.
Yeah.
It was really weird. And then he's these girls did this because... And he, explains the, background of that. And, she's just okay, I guess we won't do that anymore. Great. I could go... Okay, maybe one day we'll do a whole thing. Because I have words for Girl Meets World. But back to True Confession.
Wow, that was fast. We got off the rails real fast. And this is a movie we actually enjoyed.
Yeah, I guess I don't have that many critiques, so I had to get my anger out somewhere. Yeah. Okay, so I guess let's just... I'll just get this out of the way. We'll do a full, go through the story, but it immediately wins in, the first 5 minutes over music because Eddie, played by Shia LaBeouf, is a character. He's a person.
I think what I said is that if you take Eddie and you take away all of the lines he says, just the actions alone that he does and the expressions on his face, the way he expresses himself, even if it's not verbally, are way more characterizing than the than music's entire character through her whole movie.
And, whenever he's in a scene, he has a purpose in the scene. He's not just in the background for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, True Confessions is a DCOM about 15, 16-year-old True. And she has a brother, Eddie, twin, who's neurodivergent. And the whole thing is just kind of a slice of life, just like a couple months just sort of following this family around. And there's a film contest that True enters, and she decides to make a film about her brother. Also, the other thing, one thing I think is nice is that they don't make it like inspiration porn.
Yeah.
It's not just like... So, it shows... It's not that, like in music, oh god, let's ship him off to the people pound jokes all the time. Ever. Because that's horrifying. But they do show, like... They show the beautiful moments and the hardships. So, like, when our first introduction is a difficult moment for True because she's a dumb teenage girl who's really self-centered, like most teenagers are. And she's bringing her friends home from dinner, and Eddie comes out with a camera, flashing the lights, and he's saying, paparazzi. This is one thing that I didn't get, and, like, Brooke, I don't know if you could correct me on this, but when Aaron and I were just watching it, the captions say paparazzi.
Yeah, no,
I didn't say that.
I pointed that out.
Later on.
I pointed that out when we were watching it. I was like, why did the caption spell it like that? And
like, I don't know if he was supposed to be mispronouncing it, but he wasn't. It was really weird.
I think that's what it was supposed to be, but it didn't sound like it.
No.
Yeah, I didn't notice it at first, not until they got to the dinner table and he was saying it to the dad, who was like, paparazzi. And they were like, oh, he's trying to say paparazzi. And they were like, oh, you know, that makes a lot more sense. You know.
But it's weird, though, because they're all saying, like, the same thing.
It was
like,
it was a very subtle difference, if there was a difference.
Yeah, it's a very small difference. It was a small difference.
If we spoke Italian, I guess maybe we could hear it better. Maybe that was the issue. But
no,
okay.
I noticed it, but it was slight.
Okay. But then, so then True, like, is just really upset. She's like, you blinded me. And then her friends, oh gosh. Can we just take a second? I love her friends. They are so done with her all the time. They have no patience for her shenanigans whatsoever.
And the thing I like is that her friends actually include Eddie into stuff. Like, when they're watching movies and stuff, like, one of the friends is like, hey, come sit in the seat next to me. Come sit in the VIP seat, you know?
Yeah.
And it was really... I don't know, it was just good to see a good dynamic.
Oh, like, just it doesn't seem like he's... Like, they're just like... And if we hang out with her, we gotta bring him along. Like, they also just, like, are nice to Eddie.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
And I mean, that makes sense for the character, and, like, because, like, if you think about the situation in real life, hopefully you would be friends with people who were accepting of your family instead of, like... And I guess we'll see later on, like, in the movie, it fits with her character that if people are mean to her brother, she's not about them.
Yeah, because, like, that's one thing, too, because, like, even though she, like, the first interaction they have is basically her having a tantrum and yelling at her brother for being embarrassing or whatever, but that's still, like, they're siblings.
Right.
So, like, that's not okay for anyone else to do, obviously. But then we see this other dynamic. They also do a really good job of sort of building, like, everybody has a part to play. So, like, we see the mom, and she's like, True, like, come on, your brother, he didn't mean any harm. Like, he was just trying to be funny. And then she's like, you always take his side. She storms off. And they show this, like, weird animosity between them that goes on. Not weird, because, like, I get, like, it's not unusual for mothers and daughters to, like, clash like this, but at the same time, and, like, watching this several times made me really think about like my relationship as a teenager with my own mom, and it also just made me feel like I don't think I want a teenage daughter, or more specifically, I don't want her to be like True because she scares me.
Because it's the kind of character, and maybe this is accurate to some people's experiences in real life, but it's the kind of character that no matter what the mom says, it's the wrong answer. Yeah, like, because the mom, like, was saying, like, you know, like, he didn't mean any harm, and she's like, oh, so I don't even matter. Did I say that, dear? Like, I just meant, no! She storms off. Which, by the way, she has introspective, like, inner dialogue where she can reflect and be like, it's hard because he gets all the attention, or he gets a lot of the attention, but, like, I understand, too. So she is understanding, but then she still snaps at her mom all the time. Yeah, that is something, too, like, that she, which, I mean, and that's normal, too, like, in the heat of the moment. But then she never apologizes. No, until the end. Because, like, that's the thing, too, yeah. So then, so that's the relationship with the mom kind of thing. Like, True feels like mom is Team Eddie all the time. But then their dad is a neurosurgeon, and he's away a lot of the time. And he's very stressed at work, so, like, we all have the first family dinner, and Eddie drops the bowl of broccoli, and it breaks. And the dad, like, he raises his voice, and he gets really mad, and he actually makes Eddie cry. But he does immediately hug him after. He's not, like, still enraged and, like, oh, now you're crying. He is, like, trying to calm himself down, and he hugs Eddie and is like, we'll do it one day. Like,
can I go back and touch on the dynamic between the like the family dynamic again?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
So, I spoke a little bit about how the friends interact with Eddie, but I think that Zach said this when we were watching together. But the interesting part about this is that not only does this movie, towards the end I commented that I really liked this movie because it didn't make out having a developmental disorder as some kind of, like, superpower, like something like Big Bang Theory does, where it's just like all the downsides are quirky and everything else is just really, really powerful and strong. Like, and it didn't do the thing that music did, where it's just all downhill all the time. He's Eddie is an actual person with pros and cons. His developmental disability makes him a different kind of person who can enjoy life in different ways to other people, but isn't as capable as other people. And that's, you know, he's a rounded human being that has pros and cons to him, and his condition isn't a horrific one, nor is it a great one. He's just different.
Yeah.
And the family dynamic is like that too, where they're not showing you like in music, Kazoo is just like a wreck the entire time. She is a terrible and abusive caretaker. And it didn't go the opposite route, where it decided to be like, hey, actually everybody in the family is really good all the time. It was like everybody else also has pros and cons. The dad is always away, and he has a stressful job, so he gets really aggravated really easily. The mother is really caring, but she can't care for both of the kids. What was the character's name again? True. True is a, you know, self-absorbed teenage girl who likes being with her brother and playing with him and everything, but she gets really embarrassed and stuff, like you said. It's an actual character dynamic that works really well.
Right.
It shows you everybody conflicting with Eddie's condition and everybody trying to make room for Eddie's condition where they can. And it's really good because it actually has character development.
Right. Yeah, I think that is, like, really important. And just, like, one quick Dig It music. True is also, I feel, more redeemable because, again, she is just starting high school and Kazoo is a full-grown woman.
Right, exactly.
Like, I don't feel nearly as bad for Kazoo when you're, like, your whole deal.
Yeah.
But then, so then, like, elaborating more on the dad, going back to what Rogue said, I do think it is good that this movie was very, like, thoughtful in all their things, because they feel like it would be really easy to just, like, vilify the dad, like, oh, he just doesn't get his son and he doesn't love enough. And it's like, no, he's just he's just not perfect,
right?
But he tries. So they show that scene, and then later on they show that, like, Eddie has a nightmare and he fell out of bed, so his dad, like, lovingly helps him back into bed and, like, strokes his hair so he can, like, calm down, you know. And, like, they have those moments too, so it shows those both sides. Oh, another thing about True that I vaguely remembered, but I didn't realize how much this movie actually sort of parallels music in a way. But True has her own fantasy moments where she envisions her life as a sitcom.
But, like vintage sitcom.
Yeah, so, like, after a fight with her mom, she envisions this perfect, like, Leave It to Beaver sort of deal where it's perfect and her mom's perfect and gives her $100 allowance and stuff, and it's like, okay, we get it, True. You're not like other girls. She also films things all the time, like, constantly. She's got, like, 5 TVs in her room, and I guess that helps with editing, maybe, in the old days. I don't know. I'm very fascinated by the aughts tech.
I know. I love the early 2000s tech in this movie.
Yeah.
And all of these movies, and all of the DCOMs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, all of those TVs are, like, really big box TVs. Like, she's got, like, a whole, a whole shelf dedicated to just holding the TVs on their side, actually. So they're not even the right way up. So I think that they might have, like, they might have gotten they might have brought the, what do you call it? I just said the word. Shelves on set. And they were like, okay, put the TVs in them. And they went to put the TVs in them and they didn't fit, so they were like, okay, we'll just rotate them 90 degrees. It'll be fine. Nobody will notice.
I mean, I guess that's one thing, too, that it just made me think of, like, nobody's asking Dad to get a different job. Like, we're accustomed to this lifestyle that his neurosurgery provides.
Like, the characters actually are really understanding that he can't be there all the time. But it does bother him. Yeah.
And, like, they talk more about that at the end. I think it is, this movie, I guess, like, rights a lot of wrongs. Like, because that's one thing that I've always been very confused about with, like, the workaholic dad trope. Like, I mean, granted, like, Mom also works. And so, like, and it looks like she actually has, like, a pretty big job. She looked like a big corporate lady too, but, like, in workaholic dad movies, it's like, you're not here, like, your life is happening here and you're missing it, and then he just sort of, like, quits his job,
and it's like, oh, I guess we don't have money now.
But then it's always like a happy ending, but, like, no, hun, like, no,
the world needs neurosurgeons, okay?
I guess this would be, I guess a lot of times too, though, maybe that's something, maybe they're saying that this is a legit job, because, like, in most workaholic dad movies, it's like marketing.
Oh,
like a lawyer.
That's another thing I really liked too, is that this movie actually brought up a couple of issues that are in the medical industry. Like, the dad is really ableist. Like, through a part of the movie, like, he's like, we can push him further, and the mother's like, no, we can't, we just, like, I don't think we can push him any further, and he gets really angry, which is the scene that Rogue was talking about earlier, before he gets tucked into bed and, like, cuddled and calmed down and stuff, and And I was saying that this is like a really, really big issue in the medical community. Like, at the time of recording, we are still in the coronavirus pandemic. And a big thing that was happening for a while, it probably still is happening, but I saw it on the news a while ago, is that a lot of hospitals were turning down treatment for, like, the mentally ill and disabled. And, were getting them to sign, like, do not resuscitate, or orders to say that they don't need care, that they aren't obligated to be taken care of if they're hurt or going to die, when they can't consent for themselves, or when they don't have their caretaker nearby to read it through for them.
That's really scummy.
Yeah, reaching out to care homes to get them to sign DNRs and stuff ahead of time so that if they came in, they could just leave them to die, which is a big issue. I'm both autistic and trans, and being denied medical care is a big issue in both of those communities. And when I saw him being really ableist to his son, it immediately made me think of those things. It didn't touch on them per se, but it definitely went there with the whole ableism in the medical community, at least in the dad.
Right.
And then there's also he's never home, so, you know, he's a busy boy, his family never gets to see him. Yeah, it was a really, really, I think it handled it really well, honestly.
Yeah. I do think that they really just, like, I feel like the movie's not, like, 20 years long, but I think with the time they really explored everything that they could have possibly explored.
They did a really good
absolutely.
Job.
Yeah.
Okay, so next chunk of the movie, I guess, there's this other element. Yeah, I guess we'll go with this one first. That the mom, she finds a post that True made, because she went to, like, this medical site message board, and True just put out a message saying, I want to, like, now that we're starting high school, I want to find a way to make my brother more accepted in the world. And she gets a few replies. One of the it's very interesting, the first reply that's just like, there's no cure, but you need to work on you, and you need to have strong faith. And it's so interesting that she just rolled her eyes, and I was like, wow, DCOMs are taking a strong stance right there.
I mean, I think that's, like, a very real thing that happens even, I mean, this movie was made, almost 20 years ago? And it's a very real obstacle. I don't even know if that's the right word. That people in that community and the families of people in the community face, of outsiders being like, you just need to pray and everything will work out. And it's like, okay.
That's not helpful. Yeah, like, especially because, like, this teen girl just put out, I guess, I don't know if anyone knows anyone's ages. Well, no, she said starting high school. Okay, so this teen girl puts out, like, her issues, and you're just like, actually, you're the problem. Yeah. Like, that was the first line. Doesn't even matter what's said after that. You ruined the whole plot. Then the next one was just, like, wasn't bad, it was just unhelpful. Like, yeah, you know, we talked to my school and they made some, like, arrangements for him, and, like, it's pretty good, maybe you could try that. And it's like, no. That's not it. Then third response is from Dee Dee, and Dee Dee says, like, you know, with a sister like you, I'm sure your brother feels very loved, and, you know, if you ever need to talk, I'm here. And that was what I guess, yeah, that was basically what True was trying to hear. Just that someone was listening, and that she validated sort of in her, like, caring for her brother. So they start talking. It turns out that Dee Dee is actually mom. And this is...
I was going to say it's really obvious that Dee Dee is the mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only thing, like, this, before we go into the whole thing, because I have, like, catfishing your kid is such a bad idea.
Don't do that, please.
But the one thing so the mom finds the post that True made at work, and she's talking to, like, her friend coworker about it, and her friend is just like, well, she's not telling you everything, but you should just be glad she doesn't have her own apartment. And then leaves.
Just walks away.
Smile.
And she's like, smiling so big. She's like, okay, bye. Walks away.
Yeah. Just comes she just comes up to her like, yeah, no, like, you should be glad she hasn't moved out already. She's 14. And then she just, like, is, like, so proud of herself. She feels like she's done a lot to help.
Mom is literally sitting in her chair looking down, like, frowning, like, about to cry. And then, like, this lady leaves, like, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. Like, wait, come back. This was the worst time to leave. You just started talking.
Yeah.
So then True makes her first movie, and it's, like, really clinical and really boring, and it was really cute. I like that most of the time her friends are just done with her, but this time they, like, knew she worked really hard on it, so they're sitting there, and every time she turns around, they go from looking so bored to being like, oh yeah, no, yeah, great, thumbs up, yeah, you're killing it. And then they also show Eddie on the couch just sleeping. And
so did we say what her movie was about? It's clinical. She decided to make it about Eddie, but she decided to do the clinical side instead of, like, the everyday she experiences. Yeah. And
it was
she
like Say again.
I guess she got inspiration because her dad's a neurosurgeon, so she's, like, talking about the brain and the different functions of the different parts of the brain and why it's different for him, but in a very clinical way that's extremely dry and boring.
Yeah, it looked like... I mean, I think it would be good if it was, like, for a school, like, to show the students to take notes on the brain. But yeah, it wasn't it. And then her mom tries to tell her, like, you know, actually, like, I think maybe if you show, like, your side in it, like, emotionally, and she, True being True, takes that so well and storms off and screams. And then Dee Dee tells her the exact same thing. But she adds a little phrase that you could put on a pillow, and it says, like, if you show your true self, you'll be rewarded. And that really resonates with True.
Which, to be fair, not always true.
Yeah, that's true.
Accurate.
But you just think of, like, influencers immediately.
I know. Shane Dawson, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I was gonna be nice and keep names out of it.
That's not how you get views.
All right, now twerk for me. Twerk for me, baby.
Gosh.
Gosh.
We're a mess.
Just, like, decided to dunk on him. So then, let's see next. Oh, right. Didn't mention this nearly enough. True has a crush on an older boy, a junior, Billy Meyer. And one thing I don't think I really acknowledged the first couple times I watched, but I did notice it this time. Billy kind of sucks the whole time.
Yeah,
and everybody repeatedly says that. I never really paid attention. I guess I was always just focused on, like, True likes Billy, and everyone's just, like, making fun of him because she likes him. But then, like, this time around, I was really watching his behaviors. I was like, oh, he's actually garbage. Because he at one point they have a potentially cute meet cute where they bump into each other and all their books fly, and she's like nervous and giggling, and he just picks up his stuff and walks away. He doesn't even hand her a book.
He kind of just like looks at her and scoffs and walks off, and she's like, "Oh, I love you, Billy."
That's like,
he looked at me.
yeah. And like, because like earlier she had this moment with her friend, she was like, we totally connected, it was beautiful, and her friend's like, oh, dish. And they show a flashback and he says, hey kid, is there an assembly today? And she's just like, yeah. And then her friend's face is everything, because she's like, oh yeah, you're like gonna get married.
But at least in this movie, like, even True is like, well, no, but at least he knows that I exist now. So there's that at least going for them. Because
yeah,
I think Zach's mentioned it while we were watching the movie. You were like, in a DCOM now, they'd be like, yeah, we're gonna get married and have 3 kids.
Yeah, they just full on just ride this delusion train, and everyone else is like Jim Halperting all over the place. But then, yeah, so Billy's just kind of a meanie pants. Then True goes through a bit of a will she, won't she mail in. Oh, wait, no, not yet. Okay. So then True actually listens to Dee Dee, who said the same thing that her mom said, and she's going to make this movie more real, more emotional. And so she films like different moments with Eddie, and there are some actually like really intense things that we see like on camera. But before we get to the camera part, this is like one of 2 really intense conversations that Eddie and True have. And this is when I really like, this first one I feel got me really teary-eyed, and then the second one gets me even more teary-eyed. But this one, they're sitting, and True was reading a story with Eddie, and it's really cute. She like does voices for that he likes her to do and stuff. And then they're sitting there, and he asks True, are you mad at me? And she says, no, why? And he says, you never play with me anymore. It makes me sad. She says, how come? And he says, you used to be my twin, but you're not anymore. And I thought that was the heaviest thing I've ever heard anyone say, ever. I'm actually getting teary. I just think that I picture his face saying it. We mentioned Eddie was played by Shia LaBeouf, right? We did talk about that.
We did.
Because, like, Shia was, like, so talented and, like, a really good actor. I didn't really
even
think
to the
about
point
it.
of, so Shia LaBeouf, how old did I say he was in this movie? Like 16?
16, yeah.
Was how old he was when he was playing this character who was supposed to be 14. So pretty close. And the person playing True, I can't remember her name. She did this movie and then stopped acting, and Clara Bryant is her name. She did this movie and then stopped acting and became a lawyer. So she's a lawyer now. But it's kind of, she was a good actress too, but you can definitely see in some of the scenes the difference in acting ability.
Yeah.
It's like very noticeable just because Shia LaBeouf is like such a good actor.
Yeah, it really does show. And like in this one, I was like really in that, and I was like, oh my god, like, are you gonna read that book again, True? Like, what are you gonna do with that? How are you gonna confirm that, like, no, you guys are still twins? Because that's like, I didn't like just like twins as a concept. What a great way to start that. But like really, I think about it so much because I can't, like, in my like class when I have twins, you have this person with you your whole entire life.
Yep.
I just can't. So like I just think about that all the time. I don't know what it is about that that's just so such a... I guess because I don't have that bond and I never can. So, like, it's very fascinating to me, the people who do. So, when he says, "You're not my twin anymore," I'm like, oh my gosh, this needs to be rectified right away. What are you going to do, True? Well, she just goes to Dee Dee and says, "Oh my gosh, everybody hates my boring movie. What am I going to do now?" True! Bad! Stop it! But anyway, she starts making it more emotional and stuff, and she catches these moments. And I don't know why I was surprised, but they actually used the R-slur in the movie. But I don't think it was necessarily a full slur yet at the time.
It was,
what was 2000s?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Even with the slur connotation that it has, I think that it was used well in the movie because it was used against... it was used against Eddie, and then you see Eddie picking it up and starting to internalize that.
Yeah,
and
go ahead. Sorry.
It makes True's character extremely depressed saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think... Yeah. So this movie came out in 2002, right? Yes. So 19 years ago. So I'm not entirely sure. I was 10, so I'm pretty sure the accepted term for for a lot of neurodivergent people was like mentally retarded, and it was like maybe beginning to become kind of a slur at that point. Definitely by the time I was in high school, it was like starting to be not okay to say, which is wild.
Because I definitely remember, like, when I was in elementary school, people would just throw it around, not to neurodivergent people, but just like, oh my gosh, that's so R word.
Yeah.
Or, like all the time.
So, like as a slang, like we say stupid or whatever. So yeah, so I think that in the movie, like even if that were the term for neurodivergent people, mentally retarded, they were definitely using it as an insult. Obviously, it had the connotation. It was the bullies saying it to Eddie in a negative way, in a very harsh, mean way. So yeah, it was very shocking to hear in 2021, just it being flagrantly thrown around. And they didn't use it, I think it was said 3 or 4 times in the movie. Maybe 3 times from the bullies and then Eddie. But
yeah. Because, like, I do think it's really, because, like, whenever they're referring to Eddie, they say handicap or developmentally challenged or disability, so they make sure that they don't use the R word in relation to him. But also, they really do a good job, I feel, of explaining just how harsh that word is. Mm-hmm. In a, like, So first time we see it, the bullies throw a ball at his head and say, "Nice catch, R word," and you could see his face processing it. But not only that, we see how it goes on to affect Eddie in a future event when he goes to the beach and his kite won't fly. He says, "No, it's stupid. It must be R word." And he's frustrated with the kite and himself. And True was already sad the first time she heard that, because she's been filming all this and she's filmed this too. And this even makes her think she doesn't want to send in the tape because people won't understand Eddie. And it's part of him. And I just think that was really, I think that really shows it shows how ableist people, when they do ableist things, don't get it. Like, those bullies, maybe that's being too kind, but I don't think I think they thought it was, haha, we're being jerks, but he doesn't even get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
so
fair.
But I feel like the movie did a good job, so people who have that mentality know, no, he did, and he took that with him, and it stayed with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, now, I guess she does end up listening to... Her mom says that she should send it in, but that's not gonna do anything. Dee Dee tells her she should turn it in, and she does. And again, Dee Dee says, if you show your true self, you'll be rewarded. But, when she tells her mom that she turned it in, her mom says the same thing. That if you show your true self, you'll be rewarded. And I do not know how I would react if I found out my mom was catfishing me.
Also, I don't know if my mom, or if my mind would immediately go to, they use the same phrase, so they must be the same person. When that phrase is generic enough to be like, oh, this must just be an old person's phrase.
Yeah, I mean, even so, it could have been like, oh, that Oprah says that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. She definitely could have played it off, but she kind of just,
she had wanted to tell...
Right.
She had wanted to tell her early in the movie.
Yeah, she had already wanted to tell her, so I think she was just like, oh, well.
Yeah, I guess it's out now.
This is a good time.
I think that's good, too, because if it's, out and you double down, that's a bad look. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so again, I do not know, she also apologizes to her, and she says, look, I'm sorry, I saw your post, and I dove right in. I just wanted to reach you. And I'm like, I get why you did that. And I understand, because True is not easy to talk to. She genuinely if I was one of her friends, True's cool, and I would just be like, I'd be over her just like her friends are. But as her mom, I was always walking on eggshells with True. I can feel it. I was so scared of True from the mom's perspective. So I get it. At the same time, though, I do not know what the proper reaction to your parent catfishing you is. And Aaron didn't really see it. Rogue, I don't remember if you saw it when we watched together. I just think that this is so risky because it's so easy for teens to get crushes over nothing.
No, we talked about that. We did talk about that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because, True at one point is talking with her friend, and she's like, Dee Dee just really gets me. She's so supportive. It's like I have my own guardian angel. And I'm like... I'm glad the cat was out of the bag when it did, because you almost fell for your mom.
Yeah.
No, but
I don't know how else to put it.
The reason I didn't see it is the way that they presented it is that she obviously clearly thought of her as an older woman, somebody like a mother figure.
Okay, but I think we talked about that. Zax and I talked about that, because I was like, well, she is old, she knows she's older, and Zax said so. People get celebrity crushes and stuff all the time.
You could get a crush on your teacher.
Look at all these influencers getting in trouble for canoodling with underage people.
Yeah, I mean, how many 16-year-olds are in love with Idris Elba?
Right.
Or Helen Mirren. It's not that's not an issue here.
Yeah, but they're also really famous, whereas this is just some random person from a medical image board.
Yeah, well, I get it's just but they're connecting. True feels like nobody but Dee Dee gets her. It's her and Dee Dee against the world.
And I could see I think especially with the and obviously they're not gonna they probably weren't even thinking about this in 2002 when message boards were barely a thing. But it's harder to age gap seems smaller on the internet than in real life. So yeah, even if it was oh, I have this guard I'm a Zax.
Yeah, I just I said if you were thinking, hey, I want to get close to my kid, they have friends online, I could just slip in there. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's a bad move.
That's
they might fall in love with
you bringing this up does remind me of all of those people who catfish their daughters and got their friends kidnap them, hold a fake kidnapping and shove guns in their face and to be
yes, yes. Yeah, no, I totally remember those. Like, H3, it covered, like, all those, and I used to watch those all the time, and I was like, why would you do these things? This is such a weird... Well, although the H3 covered a weirder element of it, because it was parents, and I'm assuming this is all fake. Hope this is all fake. But... parents would contact this guy, I think his name was like Kobe Pearson or whatever, and they'd be like, here's my daughter's or son's social media, catfish them, and then they have like a 3-day conversation with this random guy, and they think it's a 14-year-old girl, but they get, in one instance, this was the one that I remember the most, where this girl was going to meet a guy at the park, an open public place that if in the neighborhood, so that if you're going to, like, she didn't go to the park 3 towns over, she went to her park, probably on her way home from school, and there were like people in the park, and she's just like waiting on the playground for whoever to show up, and her dad shows up, and he's like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? And I was like, oh my gosh,
she's at a park.
And at the park, she was like, I didn't realize I raised you to be so stupid. And I was like, oh my god. Well, like, whoa. It's the park. She made a new friend. She thought it was, but it turned out it was her dad and some guy. So like I said, please do not catfish your children.
That's probably really traumatic. I think that's probably abusive.
Yeah.
No, and like, yeah, I didn't even get into the ones where it was like they literally like faked like kidnappings, like kids try. When this girl like sort of like snuck out to get into like a van, and it was like this whole thing. Ugh, we don't need to revisit those videos. They're pranks in the past. They should stay there. Just like stop. Don't catfish your kids. I didn't realize that was the moral of this video. Okay, so that cat's out of the bag, and True is not happy with her mom, and they go to like this fair or carnival or thing. I don't.
It's like a. I can't think of the word. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking.
It looks like a street farmer's market.
It's kind of like a street fair.
Street fair, okay, yeah. Because it looked like a farmer's market, but Eddie said he went on another ride, and I was like, I didn't see any rides, but okay.
You do
Chalk
you.
that up to... Yeah. Anyway, so then the parents are kind of doing their own thing, and the kids are doing their own thing, but True loses track of Eddie. And she finds him, and he's wearing a hat, and it turns out some kids gave it to him. And this was one thing too. I don't think we really talked about this part. Why? Like, I get why I wouldn't necessarily want him to just take stuff from people. But like, I guess I don't really know why. Actually, I think I get why. I get like that. You wouldn't want him to take stuff from people. Just like as handouts, I guess?
I think she was trying to make sure that he didn't like grab it off of someone's table or like off of someone's stroller or something, maybe.
Or like
because
or like asked for it or something.
Yeah, because like, he's developmentally delayed. He acts way younger than he is, so he doesn't necessarily have those boundaries that have to be taught, you know? So I think that's what they were going for.
Okay. Because it wasn't like a huge thing. I just was, now that we're talking about it, I realized like I don't really know why it was that big a deal. But yeah, no, that makes sense.
And so that's because he was like, no, they gave it to me. And she was like, and then she was going to make sure that he actually did, like it was given to him and he didn't just like take it.
Yeah, and then I got it, like I said, like they were really cautious, like they didn't vilify the dad, they showed like his loving and tenderness, but they vilified Billy Meyer.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so like, she goes up to this group of boys, and this is already, Eddie foreshadowed this a bit, because he's like, you like Billy Meyer, and then she's like, what are you talking about? But then it's Billy Meyer. It's right there. And she offers him the hat back. It's like, I think this belongs to you. And he reaches to take it so that as soon as she lets go, it falls to the floor. And then he's like, I did give it to him. Isn't it be nice to R-word week? And then her face immediately changes because she's like, because she was when it fell to the floor, she was already kind of confused about what
why he was acting like that.
And then he says that, and then her face changes, and he also makes sure that we can see Eddie, not pulling a music here. We see Eddie. He also heard what was said, and he's starting to process as well. But that's not even the worst of it. This genuinely, every single time I've watched this movie in the last week, my mouth drops every single time. It wasn't enough to just say that line. Him and his, it was 2 or 3 friends.
Yeah.
Took turns spitting in the hat before they gave it to him. Which is rude. I don't even know.
You're gonna say rude? That's beyond rude.
Yeah, I don't even know what to call it. That's just monstrous.
Monstrous.
Yeah, I don't even know why you would do that to somebody. I don't know why they thought it was I never understand stuff like that, because he was probably just walking from the ride or whatever. They saw oh, hey, look at that kid, and then they spit in a hat and said, hey, here kid, wear it. But they know that there's spits there, so it's funny. It's just, I was so livid, and she was livid, and True just lets out a little battle cry and pushes him off the bridge into the lake. And I was like, yes, honestly, yes. Thank you. I stand. That was the only correct answer to this. There was no other way this could have ended, honestly. Oh, gosh, that was so... Been very upset that we're 2 different issues the last couple minutes. But... she ends up sending in her thing, and she calls... Now it's sort of... The intensity sort of dials down a bit after that whole Billy thing. She cathartically erases him from a picture. She
magically,
yeah. Yeah.
Magically dissolves him.
Yeah. And that was cathartic. She no longer has a crush on him, and with good reason, because he's garbage. Then she calls a lot to get the results back. Did I win the contest? We don't hear. I almost wish they did hire someone or have someone do a voiceover of what was said on the other end, because I'm very curious. But we get the point that she's been calling a lot, and they're basically saying, please leave us alone. Stop. Stop this. We have other things to do. And, but then, some more time passes. Oh, wait. Actually, there's one more. I forgot. This, before the reveal of if she won or not deal, there's another big emotional scene.
I was trying to remember when that was. I couldn't remember if it was before or after.
I think it might have been, well, I feel like she sent it in already, but then after this event she talks to her dad because she feels bad that she didn't have her camera. So maybe she hadn't yet. Either way, before the results of the contest come in, she is at the library, and it's Eddie and one of her friends. Finishes his book, and he's like, oh, can I go get another book? And then True's like, yeah, you know where to go. So he goes, he grabs a couple books, but then one falls into the elevator.
He kicks it and it slides into the elevator.
And he goes on, and at first I was already like, oh no, this is not going to go well. But then I was like, it kind of, not in a bad way, but it kind of jerked me around a little bit, because then he liked the elevator ride. I thought when people were coming in, he was going to get overwhelmed, but he wasn't. He was just, looking at, outside the elevator, because it was one of those glass where you can see the rest of the library. And I was like, okay. But then he doesn't know which floor he's on and he gets lost. And I think me and Rogue were talking about what a good job they did of really just making it clear how big the world feels when you're lost, you know?
Yeah. It was like big, but also because it was a library with multi floors, so it felt big, but also felt really claustrophobic because they did these really good like shots down the aisle of books, but the camera was like in the middle of the aisle, so it was like towering above and down this like claustrophobic aisle, and everywhere you turn it's just more books, and it
felt very labyrinthian.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then it was just I felt it. It reminded me of any time I've ever been lost, but which is
yeah.
So he's wandering around the aisles and he's starting to panic, and he starts yelling out really loudly for True, and everybody in the library hears it and looks around and is like, what is going on? And so True and her friend get up and they start running down to try and find him, and the librarian sorry, go on.
Oh, just before that, just one thing I want to say is, like, I know we've been talking about their relationship and everything, but, like, as soon as she hears him call her name, the way she just, like, springs into action makes me, like, teary-eyed as well, because she was like, I need to save him right now, you know?
Yeah.
We can't take him.
It was very sweet.
Yeah.
But, the librarian approaches him, and it's just like, this is a library. Be quiet. And he's like he's very obviously really, really scared.
It's like having a panic attack.
Yeah, he's having a panic attack. He's backing away. And the librarian just, like, walks closer to him, like, this is a library. Be quiet. And he knocks into the books, and then they come running over, and they're trying to comfort him. And he just stands there, towering over them all, being like, this is a library. Be quiet. And they're like, chill out for a second, okay? We got this. He's just panicking, okay? It will be quiet. And he's just like, he just like awkwardly walks off.
Yeah, I do really appreciate they had, like, because I feel like Disney movies sometimes are like, oh, you can't talk to parents like that, or you can't talk to adults like that if you're a kid. But I do appreciate that they showed the friend was like, he just needs a second, chill. And the guy was like, okay.
Because it was also, like, so, I didn't understand, because, like, clearly he looked like something was wrong. So, like, because also, like, the librarian's biggest problem was that books fell. But, like, maybe if you stopped walking for half a second and just said, like, because he keeps backing up because you keep walking forward, so just stop moving.
Yeah, that was...
And, like...
That was such a really...
Read the signals.
It was an unnatural reaction, yeah.
It was so weird.
Yeah.
And, like... So, but yeah, no, like, and I agree with you, Rogue. I think it's really good that the friend stood up, too, because I feel like until that moment, like, even though we did see them interacting, I was kind of... Because, like, I mentioned to Aaron this time, like... At first, when they were going over to the house and, like, Eddie has this thing and True yells at him about the whole paparazzi thing, they just, like, actually, we'll stay another time, bye, and they leave. And I was like, I don't really know their deal in regards to Eddie, you know? Mm-hmm. But I feel, and, like, even though we saw them hanging out, when the friend said, hey, they just need a minute, that was the first time I was like, okay, yeah, like, no, they really do care about Eddie, too, in a way.
Yeah.
For me. But then this hit hard. So now the librarian has stormed off and he's gonna library it somewhere. But anyway, Eddie sits there and he's just like looking down.
Yeah, she's trying to make sure that he's okay, and this really hit me really hard. This really hit me hard too. Eddie looks up to her and says, I'm done with being different. I just want to be I just want to be normal like everybody else. And she tries to comfort him and say, like, oh, you're if you were the same as everybody else, you wouldn't be the brother that I love. You wouldn't get all this help in school. You wouldn't be allowed to roller skate in the house.
Yeah.
And I guess that cheers him up a little bit, which, yeah, that was a really, really good moment. I definitely... go on.
No, yeah, like, I totally agree with you. I just think it's really nice, like, just to really assert how much of his own person that Eddie is. They talk about how he also feels about, you know, his condition as well.
Yeah.
Not just, and it's also, like, I think, and Rogue brought up, this is when, like, their acting really shows, because he's teary-eyed.
Like, crying just, like, real tears, and Clara Bryant, True, sounds like she's crying, but there are no tears.
There's no, at one point he reaches up to, like, wipe her tears, and I'm like, put your sleeve back down.
And I think it goes back to what Aaron mentioned at the beginning about how they didn't portray the the neurodivergency as like a superpower, and like it gives insight into how the character feels about it, and that it is tough for him to, like, it's tough for his family, and it's tough for him too.
Yeah.
I
haven't ever felt this much due to my autism. My autism is very minimally affecting to me most of the time. But in regards to, and sorry for the background noise, in regards to being trans, though, I've definitely felt this way a lot. It's taken a lot of effort to try and not see it as something that's just 100% a bad thing. And what was I going to say? Like, we were talking about Eddie. Yeah, the way Eddie feels is a very, very valid thing that a lot of people who are different because of one thing or another genuinely feel.
Yeah.
And there's a big issue right now with the internet where a lot of the time it's kind of like a flip-flop from traditional media, where traditional media was always like, oh, everybody who's different is a serial killer and a predator, and you have to watch out for them. Instead, the internet has taken the approach of, actually, mental health issues are beautiful, which is not true. Like, they can absolutely have pros. Like, there can be upsides to being autistic or trans or having some kind of physical disability or any other kind of mental disability, ADHD, so on and so forth. There are pros to some of these conditions. There are also a lot of cons, and everybody kind of just abandons people when you realize that actually there's a lot of ugliness to this.
Right.
And I think that's something that was really good about this movie. Is, I think I've already said this in the video before, but you know, showing the bad sides as just part of it, and not as like something to demonize everybody over. It was really, really good how they handled it. It was surprisingly good.
Yeah, it was, and I think, Bob actually said he doesn't think, and I kind of disagree just because of how all these movies went, but he said he didn't even think this is, like, meant to be a DCOM. Like, this was just, like, gonna be just a movie, and just DCOM, like, Disney Channel just happened to, like, get it. And, like, I don't know, but his thing is just because of how much time they spent, like, developing the parents, too, you know?
Mm.
And I was like, I feel like it was just a DCOM, especially because, like, if you have Disney Plus and you watch it, like, the soundtrack, I feel, exposes that it's a DCOM a little bit. There were some moments where I was just listening to it, and, like, anytime True, like, lashes out her mom, there's literally, like, wah wah that plays. And I was like, that betrays the DCOM nature of this film a little bit. But yeah, this scene just really, I'm still, like, playing it in my head when he just says, I'm tired of being different now. And I was like, that's such a, like, because like you said, like, it doesn't just have to do with his neurodivergence. That's just, like, everybody in one way or another has felt that way, I feel. Maybe not as hard, but like just like knowing what sets you apart from people and wishing you could just get rid of it, like, but you can't, is a very like intense feeling that it's really like hit hard. But so okay, now on the plus side, well, I guess that sort of spoiled it. But anyway, we get the results of the contest, and she won. So that's good. I guess that'd be a bummer if she lost. What I think this is something too. There's actually like quite a bit of falling action after she wins the contest. Like we watched the whole movie.
Okay, so the movie that she does is like, it starts out with this like compilation of fun clips of them playing together, her and her brother, and you know, her brother is like going down a slide and she goes down after him, or like he's you know, pointing at the ducks or something like that, and she starts talking about how special she thinks he is and how much she loves him. And sorry, my memory is a little bit fuzzy, but it's just a really beautiful, positive, wholesome time, and everyone's looking around at each other smiling. And then she gets into the fact that sometimes he has episodes. You know, he'll scream in a store, and everyone will be like, "Hey, you know, like, I don't want to deal with this. Do you want it or not? You know, get out." And she'll say that she said that she feels really embarrassed that he's her brother sometimes, and that she hates the way that he gets treated, and shows the clip of him playing with the kite, and the kite, like, it's not windy enough for the kite, and he gets angry and calls it the R word. And after that, I think she said that she wants, I don't remember the last part.
That he sees how beautiful life is, and like, don't feel sorry for me because I have an amazing brother who shows me how beautiful life is. Yeah. Oh, that was one of the things that I thought was like really cute in like when they show how he sees the world, which is also something interesting that they could have, I feel, made more clearly defined in music. With the whole, like, if we're gonna make music videos about how you see the world, I should know how you see the world. But I don't know because everybody has a musical number.
Yeah.
And it's not only that, but it doesn't really even show the world at all. It just has them like, it doesn't show the world that they're in and how they interact with it at all. It's just like, it's just a music video. Yeah.
But then in this, though, like, and it's still different because I get, like, you know, music was nonverbal, whatever. But, like, in this, it shows this scene where True, like, sees a spider web and she's like, "Ew, it's a spider web, what are you doing?" And Eddie says, "No, it's beautiful and strong and perfect." And I was like,
yeah.
I wish I cared that much about a spider web.
Yeah.
Because, like, he just, like, it just shows, like, how he looks on the, like, how he looks at things like that. And he sees those things.
Mm.
And actually, and that's also really, because there's, like, that is something that we only saw in the movie. And they also, the only episode we really see Eddie have like that is the one that they show in the movie, in the end product, where he's like, you know, angry. Like, we've seen him like cry and stuff, but that was more like because his dad yelled at him kind of a thing, which was different. So I think that was good that they didn't make it like this whole like just show him having episodes all the time, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, they should, like, I feel like it was good that they showed the different pros and cons, which we've been saying.
Yeah.
But, so then there's another thing. We mentioned the dad a couple times, but he missed the premiere because he had to work. And
but
he's
so he calls and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, True. I can't come to the premiere. I have a patient who's in recovery and I need to talk to their family. So I'm not going to be able to make it." But then as he's like flipping through his clipboard, getting documents ready, there's a TV on like the I don't know, nurse's station or whatever, some desk that he's at.
Yeah.
And it starts playing. I guess it's on prime time on whatever channel. And so he stops what he's doing and watches the whole thing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we can only assume that this patient's family is nervously awaiting the answers to how their surgery went. Another doctor walks up and Zax and I thought, oh, he's gonna be like, we need you to go talk to the family. He just stood there next to
He was like, man, this is what she into. I could get behind this. I can watch this as well.
At the end, he was like, there wasn't much of you in it. And I was like, don't you guys have patients you're supposed to be talking to?
Why are you here in your doctor go home? Or help people, one or the other. But yeah, so he's like, yeah, that's the problem. The friend, not the dad, but he says, yeah, that's the problem. We become invisible fathers. And so that really makes him think. And
the problem with working in the medical industry, to clarify.
Yeah. And so, yeah. Then later on, the next thing we see. Oh, wait, no. There's a lot of falling action. Okay, so that was the night of the premiere. And next thing is...
she returns to school, right?
Yeah. So, like, first the friends and True were like, what's it going to be like at school tomorrow?
Because True is concerned. She was concerned about sending in the tape because not only did she think that people weren't going to understand Eddie, she also thought that they would laugh at him, and she didn't want to have to deal with that whole situation when she got back to school. So she was like, I just hope that people don't laugh at him. And I want to point out that she's saying she doesn't want them to laugh at him. She doesn't care how they react to her.
Yeah, I mean, I think she does go through like a smile, like daydream deal when she walks like through the halls of people like having critiques of it. Like one girl's like, yeah, her wardrobe was awful, and then her like when there was other stuff that happened, but then one thing I remember is her Spanish teacher said, I was like, oh gosh, she said it would have been better, she should have done the whole thing in Spanish, but she sleeps through my class too much to ever do that.
I love that that's her, like, daydream or whatever, nightmare of what her Spanish teacher's critique would be.
Yeah.
All right.
Which, like, that is one thing, like, it wasn't, like, a big deal. I guess it was a bigger deal to True than I thought, but at one point, because she's been working on the film so much, she falls asleep in class. And it's, I guess, the Spanish class, so like, that's nice. There's a lot of attention to detail. But she goes in, and that's actually not the case at all. Everyone's really accepting. Everyone was, like, really proud of her. And they were like, I mean, because, like, yeah, at bottom, she did a cool thing. She won a contest, and she got to be on TV. So that's, like, a cool thing. And final dig at Billy Meyer, my new nemesis. I think he might top Alex Pettifer.
Yeah, I mean,
he's way worse. But then, yeah, everyone's like Eddie hugs True, and everybody's like happy, and Billy like raises his finger like he's got something to say, but True just ignores him, and she focuses on her hug, and he just like grumbles away, and that's the end of Billy Meyer. And I was like, what were you gonna say? Like, clearly everybody was already pro her. So what were you gonna say?
Yeah, exactly.
They were in the middle of applause. What were you gonna say that would Like, no one was gonna laugh with you if you threw out an R-slur. Like, what was the plan there, Billy?
He didn't even know, that's why he stopped.
Yeah, just, Billy. But anyway, so then next thing to be discussed is the dad reaches out to True and he's like, hey, watched your film again, loved the stuff, noticed something missing, me. He didn't say it like that, but he did want to know, like, why there wasn't, like, that much of him in it, and he feels bad that he thinks it's just because he works too much, basically. But then she really does not want to show him the footage that he's in, but he keeps insisting. And then she plays a few clips, a lot. They show a montage that it seems like there was actually, like, a lot of footage that she left out of the final product. But it's all the times that we've seen him, like, raise his voice at Eddie. Like, that's pretty much it. Like, that's all the clips are of. Just different times that he's raised his voice and gotten mad. Or that he's been, like, on the phone with work and wanted Eddie to go away, kind of thing, that we show. And it shows his face, because at first because at the first clip he's like, okay, like, you know, I lost my temper once, like, I'm not perfect, it's okay, like, keep it coming. But by the end he's like really, really gutted by this whole thing, and he, like, just, which, like, yeah, I mean, it's really hard to see, like, sides of yourself that you're not aware of, you know?
Yeah.
So he's just really, like, and I think it's good, though, that they show that he wants to change. He doesn't really even know how. But she's just like, you know, he loves us even when we make mistakes, so we just need to love him back. And then, like, they show later that the dad is working on, like, spending more time away from work and making more time for Eddie, and he's working on his patience. They show that he still does lose his temper sometimes, but, you know, he's trying. But after she shows her dad about himself, she looks at this other clip, and this is something that happened. Like I said, I couldn't have True as a teenage daughter. She scares me. There's this one clip where she turns the camera on abruptly and says, when I make a sitcom of my own life, remind me to cast someone else as my mom. And then in the background, you see the mom look absolutely heartbroken by that. And, like, in the real clip of it, they actually, like, pan over to her face and we see it more, but this is the footage True was taking, which is also something I compliment the movie for. They actually let her hold the camera, you know?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of movies, they rig it so that you can't, I don't know, I don't get it. Like, if it's supposed to be filmed by this person, why can't they just hold the camera? Just because I can't help but notice, like, okay, but that thing shouldn't be in frame for this. So I think it's good that they let her hold the camera, and they actually, like, considered that in the footage that they show. That's supposed to be her footage.
Yeah, it was another just really thoughtful detail.
Yeah. So then, she realizes that, like, oh, I've also been kind of a jerk to my mom. So she goes and has a talk with her, and I love the mom, because, like, at first True's like, you didn't have to catfish me, you could have just talked to me, and then the mom's like, you make that sound so easy. And I was like, yeah, you did. But anyway, they talk more and they open up, and then the conversation shifts and they have another deep conversation that I really thought we were, like, winding down, but we weren't. Because then she, like, just talks about how she's been thinking about, like, you know, now I'm gonna go to college, maybe get married and have kids, and Eddie will still be Eddie. and she just cries with her mom about that, and like there's no real like answer. It's just something that's been on her mind a lot, and I guess and they make it like as she gets older this is something that's more on her mind than it was before. And it's just I think it's just a really interesting, like they didn't have to include that at all. And I think it's really good that they did put that in there, that this is just something that she thinks about, you know?
Yeah.
And then then it's just like a closing speech from her. Like, okay, maybe my life isn't a sitcom, but I think that'd be boring now anyway, and I'm gonna just live in the now with my brother. And yeah, that's True Confessions.
I'm glad it was still as good as I remembered it being. Because I honestly hadn't watched it in like 10, probably more than 10 years. Goodness, like probably like 16 years.
Yeah, and I will say I didn't remember the movie nearly that well at all. But I do remember, I don't know why, I have this vague memory of like the ad for it at the time on Disney Channel, which just like really did not give a gig away at all. I remember it like a clip of her saying like, I could be on TV, and then also showing like the clips from her like TV daydreams.
Yeah.
And like,
I remember they used to show promos a lot of like the scene in the library and the paparazzi thing. Those are the two that I remember the most.
Yeah. I suppose they're probably the most attention-grabbing parts because it's when he's the loudest.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, okay, wow. It was nice to talk about something we actually enjoyed.
Yeah,
I know, it's been a while.
Yeah. My GoFundMe will be down in the description. I'm really close to reaching the deposit goal, which is short of the full goal by a couple $1,000s, but nothing to worry about. Thank you for all of the support and consideration.
Yeah, links below. Please donate to that. And you... Huh?
And I?
Oh. And if you like talking with us, you can comment down below, or you can join our Discord. We do lots of fun stuff there.
Commenting now.
Oh, good.
Oh.
Thank you. And remember to comment, like, and subscribe because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Bye.